own the world. Which will shine, US or foreign stocks, growth or value, large or small? With the total world fund, there's no need to guess. As long as the global economy keeps growing, so will your portfolio.
So in financial theory, there's this notion, the total market portfolio, and the total market portfolio includes every security in the from around the world owned according to its market capitalization. So we'll set aside bonds for now and just think about the stock market, right? We know what investors believe every company in the world is worth because they voted with their dollars. They believe that Apple is substantially worth substantially more than the rinky-dink company down the road from me. And so we look at that and we say, okay, that is probably the best starting point in terms of allocating our portfolio. Now, you can stray from that, but you should know what the total world portfolio looks like before you start, uh, straying. Before you start making bets, you shouldn't be deliberately ignoring the biggest companies in the world. Now, with my own portfolio, I have, for many many years, owned a portfolio that looks like the global stock portfolio. With as right now about 40% of the money abroad. For a lot of people, that'd be extremely uncomfortable. I get that, but in my mind, that is the least risky course of action because I am essentially piggybacking on the collective judgment of all investors around the world. And if they're saying that 40% of world stocks are abroad, that is how much they are worth, then that's how I'm going to allocate my money.
Do you think there's ever a time to deviate from that view where essentially have to be saying the market's wrong? Let's say in a period like 2000 at the peak of the tech bubble where growth stocks had these unbelievable valuations. Were you tempted or did you do anything back then to say maybe I should be tilting in the other direction?
The problem, Charlie, is that people were saying you should be tilting in the other direction at the end of 1998 and the end of 1997 and the end of 1996. Yes, there are times when investors seem to go box screaming mad, but they can be crazy for years, right? Irrational. What was it? Fed Chairman Greenspan proclaimed irrational exuberance in 1996. We had another 4 years of the bull market after that. Uh, if you'd bailed out then, what would have happened? You'd probably got into 1999 like, wow, I've missed out on 3 years of gains. I'm going to get back in now. It would have been perfect timing.
Peter, what's your take? Is there ever a time to deviate in
I mean,
terms
look
of the market portfolio?
at the turn of this last decade, BlackRock, Vanguard, and Goldman Sachs all agreed on one thing. They probably never talked to each other, but they all released reports that they expected international to do better than the U.S. that year and over the decade. And of course, what we've immediately followed was 5 years of U.S. stocks crushing international and emerging market stocks. Completely wrong. They also expected large stocks to do much worse than small stocks. Again, completely wrong. You could literally take the predictions, flip them upside down they were the complete polar opposite of where it should be. This year, we're finally seeing it happen, right? It's impossible to predict. I mean, just anybody that with conviction says one asset class is going to do better than the other, sub asset class of the stock market any given year, is somebody I will automatically not attribute any knowledge to. Like, I won't listen to anything that they have to say that's forward looking.
Yeah. And Jonathan, this came from an article you wrote called Advice for the Kids. Is this when someone asks you and often you get this question, should I buy growth stocks, value stocks, large or small? And you just say, don't bother. The simplest thing is simply one fund that owns everything.
Yes, that is what I say. Because if you own everything, never means having to say you're sorry.
And Peter, what's the case that things are going to be globally, things are going to be better? There'll be continued growth in the future, innovation that's driving this total world portfolio to be higher.
I mean, two things that drive markets the most over the long run are demographics. Are there people to buy things? There's a lot of debate about the world population, but there's no debate about over 1 billion people coming out of poverty over the next 10 to 12 years. Those are going to be consumers. They're going to buy things. So that doesn't look good. It looks better than it ever has before. And then the advancements in technology and innovation, I don't think any reasonable person, no matter how pessimistic they are, don't think we're living in a time where there is going to be jaw-dropping innovation. And so you combine those two things together, it's realistic to be an optimist.